Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into the quiet, sun-warmed streets of one of the world's oldest cities. No, not Rome or Babylon, but the ancient and suspiciously well-organized settlements of the Indus Valley. Imagine yourself waking up in a tidy mud brick home somewhere in Mohenjo-Daro or Harappa around 2500 BCE. You probably won't survive this era's grain-heavy diet or the complete lack of air conditioning. But don't worry, this is bedtime history. No actual sweating required. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is. I love seeing who's staying up with ancient civilizations. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake up on a flat rooftop, just like most folks in this ancient world, wrapped in a thin woven sheet. The sun is gently rising, bathing the adobe buildings in amber light, while a soft breeze stirs from the west. Below, the city begins its day, not with clamor or shouting, but a measured rhythm, like it's always been this way. The air is dry, slightly dusty, and smells faintly of baked earth, river mud, and cumin. You can already hear the slow clatter of ceramic vessels as someone below fills a water jar at the neighborhood well. From somewhere nearby, a sleepy ox groans as it's nudged into motion. No cars. No horns. Just footsteps on sun-warmed brick and the occasional bird that sounds suspiciously like it's judging you. You stretch your arms overhead, peering at the skyline of tidy rectangular houses, all aligned like someone grid-planned the city thousands of years before SimCity existed. Spoiler, they did. Historians still argue whether this level of urban planning came from a centralized authority, a civic committee, or just a bunch of type A traders who really liked straight lines. Your feet find the warm rooftop bricks as you shuffle toward the corner stairway. The walls are thick, painted with faded lime plaster that probably looked way fancier 4,000 years ago. A small storage jar beside the steps holds clean water, left overnight to settle out the silt, and you use a curved clay ladle to splash some on your face. There's no soap, but a mix of ash and fine sand does the trick. It's exfoliating. Very exfoliating. Below, the alley is waking too. A few neighbors nod to you in that wordless morning way, eyes half open, hands busy securing cloth wraps or brushing dust from their steps. There's an older woman feeding grain to a line of chickens who don't yet know they live in one of history's earliest cities with plumbing. They'll never appreciate it. As you descend into the alley, you realize just how remarkably uniform everything is. House after house, each with the same rectangular plan. Central courtyard, private bathing area, even a little niche for family offerings. There's a certain calm to it all, like the city was built to reduce drama. No looming palaces. No temples screaming for attention. Just people doing life, quietly, efficiently, maybe while listening to the world's first ASMR, though it's mostly goats and distant carts. You take a detour to the city wall, not for defense. No one's entirely sure what the wall was for, actually, but to look over the Indus River itself. It snakes lazily in the morning sun, flanked by lush green fields and distant trees. Farmers have already begun to tend to their plots, using water from a complex system of canals and reservoirs. This is where your food will come from later. Well, unless the river shifts course, again. Because yes, this impressively advanced civilization built its cities right next to one of the most unpredictable rivers in Asia. Historians still debate whether the eventual decline of the Indus cities came from conquest, climate change, or the river just deciding to play real-life snake. Back in the neighborhood, you pass a boy squatting at the edge of a small drain, watching water trickle past. He waves, then drops a painted clay cow figurine into the current and giggles as it sails down the street like a regatta captain. That's probably not what the engineers intended the drainage system for, but it's working. And yes, these ancient cities had public and private drainage, toilets, and a civic waste removal system that somehow feels more coordinated than what your neighborhood recycling bin gets. No judgment. You follow a soft musical clinking to a nearby home where someone's gently tapping copper rods with a flat stone, maybe repairing a tool or jewelry. Metalwork here includes copper, bronze, and even hints of lead. Nothing too flashy, just functional and precise. That phrase pretty much defines the Indus Valley itself. It's not a place of flashy monuments or giant egos, it's the slow, deliberate hum of collective life. And while you're admiring the symmetry of a passing bullock cart, whose wooden wheels are very squeaky, you spot a teenager applying what looks like thick black eyeliner using a bone-tipped stick. It's not fashion, it's practical. The kohl keeps dust and sun glare out of the eyes, and honestly, they're rocking it. You wonder if there's a Neolithic Sephora. There's not. But someone somewhere is selling the stuff by weight, probably next to a guy trading carnelian beads. Then the smells hit: grilled millet, earthy lentils, and a little bit of burnt ghee. The city is cooking. And you, sleepily wandering with dust on your feet and time on your hands, are just starting your day in one of the quietest, most efficient ancient cities that ever existed. No pharaohs. No emperors. Just you, a sun-warmed brick path, and the first glimmers of human urban calm. So go ahead, breathe it in, as long as you don't mind a little whiff of goat. You shuffle to the neighborhood latrine, rubbing sleep from your eyes and stepping over the occasional sunbathing chicken. The alleys here are narrow but spotless, thanks to the subtle genius of baked brick drains that line every street like little silent janitors. You're not just out for a stroll, you've got business to attend to. The kind of business that demands a seat with a hole in it and a clever exit strategy. Yes, tonight, we're talking about toilets. Incredibly, you're living in a city over 4,000 years old that has private toilets in homes and public latrines with running water. That's right, while other ancient civilizations were still figuring out which end of the goat was up, the Indus Valley folks had already mastered the fine art of flushing. Okay, maybe not flushing in the modern sense, but waste did flow into covered drains that led away from the house. You pour a jug of water down afterward. Voila, ancient plumbing. You duck into a friend's house, because their latrine is better lit, and make your way to the rear corner, where a raised platform and small chute await you. A low ceramic bowl is nestled inside, cool to the touch, and surprisingly odorless, thanks again to that efficient drainage network. No gold-trimmed thrones here. Just a brick seat and a clean conscience. Historians still argue whether waste was carried directly to cesspits, outside city walls, or perhaps even composted for agricultural use. One theory suggests night soil collectors gathered it in jars, though no one's found actual job listings for head poop officer of Mohenjo-Daro. Still, you can't help but marvel at how invisible the whole system is. The Indus Valley cities were designed to hide the messy bits of human life, and they succeeded with shocking elegance. Finished with your business, you head toward a public well to wash your hands. It's a dull cylindrical structure, lined with bricks arranged so precisely that even modern masons might feel a little insecure. You lower a rope, hear the gentle plunk of the water jar hitting the surface, and draw it up slowly. The water's cool, slightly mineral-rich, and oddly satisfying. A young girl offers you a strip of cloth dipped in scented oil, probably neem or sandalwood. Not exactly hand sanitizer, but it'll do. You sit briefly on the ledge of the well, watching the city breathe itself to life. Women with large pots balanced on their hips move with the grace of dancers. Children dart between them, playing a game that involves a stick, a ring, and a lot of yelling. Somewhere nearby, a man is calling softly to his donkey, who is very much not in the mood to help with deliveries today. You're reminded once again, for all its genius, this city is still full of very human problems. You pass a drainage outflow, a sloped brick tunnel that disappears beneath the road. A stray dog is napping beside it, half in shadow, dreaming of leftover barley cakes. You wonder how often someone has to go in and clean those tunnels. The answer? Probably more often than you'd like to think. Archaeologists found sediment and ash layers inside them, suggesting that occasional clogs happened, and someone had to get dirty. That someone wasn't you, thankfully. You decide to loop around to another block, taking in more of the city's signature design. Clean streets, surprisingly little trash, and drains running beneath raised walkways. No carts clogging the alleys, no vendors blocking your path. It's all very civil. So civil, in fact, that some scholars argue the Indus people prioritized public hygiene far more than personal grandeur. There's no evidence of royal tombs or heroic statues, just uniformly constructed homes and a lot of bathrooms. Priorities. You duck into a public bathing platform, a small, sunken room with a gently sloping floor and a brick bench running along one wall. A clay jar of perfumed oil sits at the edge. Someone was here recently. You splash your arms, then rinse your feet in the cool basin, letting the water swirl past the drain into the street system outside. No one speaks. This city respects privacy, even in communal spaces. A low whistle behind you reveals an elderly man tapping his stick on the pavement, making his slow but steady way to the same platform. You nod, he nods back, and without a word, you step aside. Just two people, managing hygiene like pros in an age when most of the world was still bathing in rivers next to livestock. As you leave, the breeze shifts. A soft gust of wind carries the smell of wet clay, jasmine, and slightly overripe dates. You pause near a house with a rooftop garden. Someone's hung laundry up there, and the sun is already working overtime to bake it crisp. Below the steps, you spot a ceramic pipe poking from the wall. Another private latrine drain. Just one of hundreds. And here's a strange little fact: many of the toilets and drains were lined with gypsum plaster, a natural sealant that kept things cleaner, drier, and less likely to smell. It's one of those overlooked innovations that probably made life here significantly more bearable. There's even some evidence, though still debated, that households shared latrines, forming little sanitation cooperatives. Ancient HOA rules. Perhaps by now, you're starting to feel grateful for your own working bowels. Because whether you're in a small house or a two-story merchant's home, one thing's clear: in the Indus Valley, the bathroom came standard. It's one of the few ancient civilizations where almost everyone had access to sanitation, and that alone places it in a class of its own. You pass a boy holding a pet monkey, don't ask, just smile, and a woman carefully scrubbing a large cooking vessel with ashen sand. She nods toward a large covered pot sitting near her door. You recognize it as the neighborhood's shared compost jar. Yep. Even waste disposal was a community thing. Just drop it in, and someone will deal with it later. Probably that guy with the reluctant donkey. As the morning sun climbs higher and the streets begin to dry, the last traces of the night are washed away, literally and figuratively. What's left is a city that somehow manages to feel both ancient and startlingly modern. You've used the facilities, rinsed your hands, and strolled the drainage grid of one of humanity's most peaceful and underrated achievements. Not bad for a morning routine. And you didn't even need toilet paper. You turn from the well and begin walking deeper into the city, bare feet brushing against sun-warmed bricks as you join the gentle rhythm of morning traffic, if you can even call it that. There's no crowd jostling, no shouting vendors, no ox carts screaming for space. The streets are calm. Strangely calm. As if this entire city was designed by a very chill perfectionist. Every road you wander is clean and straight, laid out in a grid so precise it could shame some modern city planners. The main avenues are wide enough for carts and livestock to pass, but your path takes you through a narrower side street, one of many crisscrossing lanes between rows of homes. The houses, again, are nearly identical. It's like someone copy-pasted mud brick rectangles and hit repeat until satisfied. But there's a logic to the layout. Houses are built back-to-back for structural strength and climate comfort. Most don't even face the main road, doors open onto small lanes, preserving privacy. And the bricks? Uniform in size. That may sound boring, but in a world where other cities used whatever rocks they had lying around, the Indus Valley chose standardization. You run your hand along a wall and feel how each brick sits neatly against its neighbors, baked, not sun-dried, and stacked with a mason's dream level of precision. Historians still argue how the cities were constructed with such consistency. Was there a central building code? A master architect? A very persuasive brick salesman? No one knows. But even the drains, yes, we're still talking about drains, follow consistent ratios. Streets slope gently toward the edges, channeling runoff into covered sewers that vanish beneath your feet like a magician's trick. It's hard not to be impressed, even if you're half asleep. A goat trots past, trilling a frayed ribbon from its neck and chewing something that used to be a sandal. You step aside as its owner, a sleepy teen dragging a clay jug, murmurs apologies and jogs after it. The goat clearly has places to be. You, on the other hand, are content to drift. You pause at a street corner where a low wall creates a sitting spot. Behind it, a tiny shrine stands under a tree. No gold, no giant idols, just a few carved stones and some faded marigold petals. You watch quietly as an old man touches the shrine and murmurs something under his breath. He lights a bit of resin in a clay bowl, sending up a curl of smoke that smells faintly of pine and mystery. Religion here isn't loud. There are no towering temples or priests in tall hats shouting at the sun. Just simple, private rituals tucked into daily life. It's worth noting, no grand monuments have been found in these cities. No palaces. No ziggurats. No "I'm the king of everything" statues. Which is deeply weird by ancient standards. Scholars still debate whether this means the Indus Valley was radically egalitarian, or whether their rulers simply didn't need giant stone selfies to feel important. Either way, it means more room for things like drains and goats. A low vibration underfoot draws your attention. You crouch to the pavement, hand pressed to the warm bricks. Not an earthquake. It's the slow, rhythmic thump of a stone roller being dragged to a construction site nearby. A new wall, maybe. Or a house renovation. You follow the sound and arrive at a work team of 4 men, 2 women, and a child fetching tools. They're reinforcing a wall with new bricks, and doing it the Indus way: neat, level, quiet. No barking overseer, no chaos. Just the soft clink of trowel on mortar and the occasional shared joke. You linger at the edge, pretending to admire the work, and one of the women offers you a figure. It's sun-wrinkled, slightly sticky, and the sweetest thing you've tasted all day. You make a mental note to find where she got that fig later. Or maybe just follow her around until she drops another. You wander further, toward the heart of the city, where the buildings rise slightly, some even 2 stories high. Balconies lean modestly over the street, draped in fabric that flutters like flags in the breeze. Up above, a child's face appears in a wooden lattice, watching you with an expression of royal suspicion. Then vanishes. A curious thing about these houses, they're often built around a central courtyard, open to the sky. Inside, families cook, bathe, play, and sleep, all within the privacy of their own brick fortress. You peer through a half-opened door as you pass one of these homes. Inside, a woman stirs something in a pot while 2 toddlers chase each other with reed brooms. The smell, coriander and smoke, is intoxicating. You move on, passing a series of curious symbols scratched into the wall near a doorway. They resemble animals, plants, and geometric shapes, almost like graffiti, except they're found everywhere. These are part of the still undeciphered Indus script. Thousands of seals and markings have been uncovered, but no one has cracked the code. Historians still argue whether the symbols represent a full written language, a trader's shorthand, or some sort of religious notation. You touch the carvings gently, as if they might whisper secrets. They don't. But maybe they will when you're dreaming. As you round the corner, you pass a communal area where a few children are chasing a wheeled clay toy that looks suspiciously like a miniature ox cart. A girl shouts something in a language you don't understand, and the others erupt in laughter. You smile, realizing that whatever the tongue, the game is eternal. Your path ends near a covered corridor, arched and shady, lined with flat stones worn smooth by countless footsteps. It's a shortcut, apparently, leading toward the market square. But you're in no rush. You lean against the cool stone wall, the air around you humming softly with distant voices and the whisper of sandals brushing stone. The city stretches on around you, each brick a quiet miracle, each drain a tiny revolution. You've wandered just a few streets, and already, it's clear, this isn't some chaotic sprawl. It's a carefully humming organism of mud, water, and human effort, built not for kings or gods, but for the people who walk it. The street opens wide now as you step out of the shaded lane and into the calm heart of the neighborhood's marketplace. But don't expect the clamor of a Middle Eastern bazaar or the elbows and pickpockets chaos of ancient Rome. This is the Indus Valley, where even the marketplace seems like it's been politely pre-approved by a city planning committee with a strong opinion about personal space. There's a gentle breeze that drifts in from the direction of the river, and with it comes the scent of fish, fresh, dried, maybe a little too dried, and the sweetness of honeyed grain cakes. Stalls are made from neatly stacked bricks or wooden frames with linen cloth flaps fluttering like sails. Behind each stall sits a vendor, legs crossed, expressions unreadable, each one a master of quiet commerce. You stroll past a table covered in semi-precious stones, lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, carnelian from Gujarat, and shell fragments from the Arabian coast. The merchant doesn't yell or wave, she simply nods as you pass. One hand moves in a tiny circle over the seals laid out beside the beads, tiny, carved stone cylinders used to stamp soft clay. These seals are the ancient version of business cards, or maybe corporate branding, each one inscribed with a mysterious script and a charming little animal. A unicorn here. A crocodile there. One seal shows a rhino balancing oddly on 3 legs, like a prehistoric acrobat. You love it instantly. Historians still argue what these seals really meant. Were they signatures? Property marks? Logos? Divine symbols? Either way, you can't help but admire the detail, a miniature work of art smaller than your thumb. The merchant sees you eyeing it and smiles faintly. You don't haggle, because no one here seems to. The prices are steady, the mood serene. It's as if the whole economy runs on the honor system and possibly really good manners. A man selling fish nods at you next. His catch lies on layers of lotus leaves and damp reeds, arranged by size and possibly temperament. A fat silver catfish stares at you judgmentally. You nod back. You're not here for fish, anyway. You're here for the bangle maker. You find her near a corner where sunlight filters through slats of woven reed, illuminating rows of terracotta bracelets like a display of cinnamon donuts. The bangles are rough but beautiful, marked with ridges, dots, or spiral impressions. You lift one. It's heavier than it looks. The artisan grins and lifts her arm. She's wearing at least 12. Some glass, some shell, some dyed clay. You raise your eyebrows, and she winks. Fashion doesn't change much. Next to her, a potter turns a slow, steady wheel. His hands shape a long-necked jar, smoothing the clay with water and years of practice. Around him are bowls, urns, and vessels with handles shaped like birds. One even has tiny feet. It's like your kitchen shelf mated with a children's book. You pause at a grain vendor's stall where large jars contain barley, millet, and wheat. He scoops some into a woven scale, balancing it against a round stone weight carved with a strange notch. Standard weights were common here, another reminder that this society valued precision. You watch as he measures, nods, and pours the grain into a sling of cloth with practiced grace. No shouting, no puffed chests. Just barley and balance. A nearby child sneezes, twice, and his mother tucks a leaf-wrapped snack into his hand as a consolation prize. You smile, amused, until your foot bumps something hard. You look down. It's a dice game, 3 shells and a few carved knuckle bones. A group of teenage boys glance up, daring you to join. You decline, remembering how bad your luck is even in Monopoly, and they cackle in the universal tone of "Okay, old-timer." Nearby, a merchant unfurls bolts of cloth. The colors are faded from sun exposure, but you recognize indigo, madder red, and a curious yellow-green made from pomegranate rinds. The cotton is soft. Indus cotton was among the earliest cultivated, and woven into tunics, shawls, and some item that might be underwear or a very ambitious headband. You lean against a pillar to rest, half listening to the hum of this market that doesn't seem to need yelling to function. People wander in and out, sometimes stopping to chat, sometimes simply exchanging a glance and a nod. It's less like shopping and more like visiting your extended family. If your extended family traded beads, fish, and lentils, then you see it. A cart being rolled in by 2 oxen, with a trio of men seated on top. The cart is filled with large bundles wrapped in palm mats and tied with woven rope. You're looking at imports. Maybe from the highlands. Maybe from Mesopotamia. The Indus cities had trade links that stretched for hundreds, even thousands of miles, by land and by sea. The bundles could contain tin, wool, more lapis, or even something exotic like sesame oil. The oxen seem unimpressed, and one lets out a sigh that vibrates through the square. Historians still debate whether these marketplaces were under state supervision or left entirely to local control. There's no evidence of taxation, but also no signs of chaos. No armies enforcing rules, no posted officials. Just civility. It's possible this economy ran on shared trust, or maybe just the overwhelming guilt of being stared at silently by everyone if you cheated. As the sun climbs higher, shadows shift, and vendors begin to stretch their legs. Some pull cloths over their goods to keep the flies off. Others sit in small clusters and sip something from shared ceramic cups, maybe fermented barley, maybe herbal tea, maybe just well water with mint. You don't ask. You're too content to just sit here in the shade of a mango tree that might be older than your entire lineage. A breeze picks up, stirring the hanging beads in one stall so they click gently like a soft wind chime. You let your eyes close for a moment, listening to the muted murmur of people whose world never knew conquest or empire, whose cities bore no kings or fortresses, just drainage and order and the soft clink of fair trade. Even the goats are quieter here. Your stomach gives a polite grumble. Not dramatic. Just enough to remind you that peaceful ancient city or not, it's definitely lunchtime. You step away from the market with its click-clack of beads and fish-eyed judgmental catfish and wind your way toward a quieter part of the city. Somewhere with a breeze. Somewhere with a view. And preferably, somewhere with lentils. You find a low step near the base of a massive brick platform. Not a pyramid, not a palace, just a raised structure that overlooks the streets below. You sit cross-legged on the sun-warmed ledge and pull out your modest lunch wrapped in palm leaves, a barley flatbread, a scoop of stewed lentils, a few slices of dried date, and something suspiciously crunchy. You nibble at it anyway. In the Indus Valley, you learn to accept what the spice gods have given you. Below, the city murmurs along, its brick bones stretching out in every direction. From up here, you can see the topography more clearly, the straight roads, the neat grids, the rows of houses all tilted just enough to catch the prevailing winds. There's a kind of quiet intelligence to it all. Not flashy. Just smart. Even your lunch spot is no accident. These raised platforms were likely storage facilities or granaries, designed to keep food dry during floods and monitored by someone in the neighborhood who probably knew a lot about barley but didn't brag about it. Historians still argue over what exactly these platforms were used for. Some believe they were grain warehouses, critical for food storage and trade. Others think they may have served religious or administrative purposes. Or both. Or neither. The truth is, the Indus left no grand inscriptions or handy welcome to our temple of cereal management signs. Just bricks. A lot of bricks. And theories. You tear off a chunk of your flatbread, warm, slightly nutty, a little like pita's prehistoric cousin, and scoop up the lentils. They're seasoned with turmeric and garlic. Maybe mustard seeds. It's not fancy, but it's comfort food. Ancient peasant food, sure, but made by someone who clearly cared whether your lunch had flavor. A woman sits nearby, resting beside a clay jar twice her size. You exchange a nod. She unwraps her own lunch, a triangle of rice, some pickled mango, and a few chickpeas skewered on a twig. A toddler bounces at her feet, gnawing on a piece of sugar cane like it owes him money. The scene is so ordinary it's sacred. A pair of men pass by with long sticks balanced across their shoulders, small baskets hanging from either end. One nods toward the platform and gestures to the woman with the toddler. They speak in quiet tones, and after a moment she lifts the clay jar onto one of the baskets. A food exchange, maybe. Or a storage transfer. Whatever it is, it happens smoothly, wordlessly, like they've done this 1,000 times. You lean back and let your eyes wander over the skyline. No towers. No banners. No giant bronze leaders pointing dramatically at the sun. Just chimneys, rooftop gardens, clotheslines, and the occasional child chasing a lizard across someone else's roof. It's humble. Almost aggressively so. Which only makes it more impressive. The granary platform casts a wide shadow that creeps across the street below. You see people slip into it like cats, a young couple chatting over a bowl of roasted seeds, a man brushing dust off a basket of herbs, two elderly women trading gossip and shell bracelets. You don't speak the language, but the body language is universal. One woman makes a face. The other gasps. Then laughter. Someone, apparently, still hasn't returned a grinding stone he borrowed 6 moons ago. Scandalous. You glance back at the granary wall behind you. Each brick fits so tightly with its neighbor that not even a blade of grass could wedge between them. This isn't rough masonry. It's architectural whispering. Every line, every angle speaks to a system built on precision. And not just in the buildings, every part of this society seems to operate on the principle of balance. Not opulence, not domination. Just function. You wonder for a moment what it must have been like to be a laborer here, stacking bricks day after day, hauling grain in the heat, measuring pulses and barley by the scoop, not for glory but for someone else's lunch. Was it boring? Probably. But there's also a kind of peace in that, routine without fear. No army rolling through. No conqueror changing your god every few decades. Just food, neighbors. Shared space. Shared work. Another breeze lifts your hair and carries with it a whiff of baked earth and coriander. Somewhere, someone is grinding spices on a stone slab. Someone else is boiling water for tea. You exhale slowly, letting the rhythm of the city settle into your chest. This world doesn't rush. It doesn't compete. It doesn't even care if you're impressed. Your lunch finished. You wrap up the scraps in the same palm leaves and tuck them into a nearby compost urn. Yes, they have those. Every few streets, there's a large jar half buried in the ground, filled with food waste, plant scraps, maybe a bone or two. Some neighborhoods share them. Others have private ones. Either way, the whole city quietly composts like it's been doing it forever. You stretch your legs, feeling the flatness of the bricks beneath you. They're not worn down. Not chipped. Just settled. Like the people who walk on them. You think about the markets, the drains, the water jars. You think about how little this city asks for praise, and how much it quietly accomplishes anyway. Above you, a line of birds, starlings or swifts, swoops overhead in a narrow formation, riding the warm thermals that rise off the rooftops. One breaks off and lands on the ledge near you. It tilts its head as if to ask whether you're going to finish the try date. You are too late. The bird takes it. You sigh. You smile. You let it have the win. After brushing the last crumbs of lunch from your hands, you follow the quiet clink of tools and the low rhythm of skilled hands at work. It leads you through a modest archway and into the artisan quarter. No official signpost, no guard on duty, just the faint smell of kiln smoke and the unmistakable sound of someone trying to drill a perfect hole into a rock the size of a raisin. Here, amid the quiet industry of the Indus Valley, you find the people who make beauty out of dust. Your feet tread over a floor scattered with stone fragments, beads, powdery red dust, and tiny curls of bone and shell. Before you sits a woman hunched over a polished slate board, turning a tiny drill between her fingers with the same calm determination you might use to butter toast. She pauses, dips the bead in water, then continues, back and forth, gentle and relentless. You lean closer and realize, that bead isn't just small. It's impossibly small. And the hole through it? Straight as an arrow. Indus Valley craftspeople had skills that can still humble a modern jeweler. Using copper tools, stone drills, and endless patience, they turned semi-precious materials into objects of trade, status, and maybe even sacred meaning. You pick up a finished bead. It's speckled carnelian, warm in your hand, with an etched white line running through it like a frozen lightning bolt. It's beautiful. And it probably took 3 days to make. Historians still argue over whether this level of craftsmanship was passed through guilds, family lines, or taught communally. There are no instruction tablets. No maker's marks. Just excellence. Quiet, anonymous excellence. Next to the bead maker, a young boy carefully buffs a finished piece with sand and oil while humming to himself. Across the way, a man uses a bow drill to shape a conch shell into the rough outline of a pendant. The rhythm of his work, pull, twist, blends with the background soundscape, the pop of burning twigs in a kiln, the soft shush of sand being poured from one bowl to another, the light patter of someone brushing scraps out the door. You stop at a table covered in terracotta toys. Yes, toys. Tiny animals with movable limbs, little carts with real wheels, and one piece that's clearly just a cow with an exaggerated expression. Probably comedy gold back then. One figurine shows a woman dancing, arms flung wide, hips tilted, and you're charmed by her confidence. No stiff royalty here. Just joy, carved into clay. A girl nearby holds up a figurine for your approval. It's a pig, probably. Or maybe a buffalo. It has 4 legs, at least. You nod, and she grins. Then promptly drops it. The pig buffalo hits the brick floor with a thunk, loses an ear, and she shrugs like it's part of the design now. Classic artisan logic. In another workshop, 2 older men are molding clay into pots with elaborate necks. They spin them by hand, occasionally using a simple kick wheel. The pots are for trade, they say, or would say, if you spoke their language. Still, one points to a row of freshly fired jars with geometric patterns etched into the sides, dots, lines, chevrons. You recognize some of the symbols from seals you saw earlier. Perhaps this was their branding. Or maybe a quiet way of saying, "This pot holds grain. Don't store fish in it." Then there are the kilns, small dome-shaped ovens tucked between buildings like little sleeping elephants. You approach one and feel the residual warmth radiating from the darkened mouth. It's no bonfire. Just a steady, contained heat, enough to harden clay without cracking it. This control, of temperature, of materials, of time, is the soul of the Indus crafts. These people didn't rush. They didn't boast. They just made. You wander to another section, drawn by the shimmer of metal. Copper tools, chisels, needles, knives, lie in neat rows beside bits of slag and casting molds. One mold is shaped like a bird. Another like a fish. You imagine someone pouring molten copper into that fish-shaped cavity centuries ago, watching it glow and settle, waiting for it to cool before revealing the glint of a finished trinket. What's surprising, maybe even unnerving, is how none of this is behind closed doors. The city feels like one large open workshop, with crafts integrated into daily life. Children help. Elders supervise. Neighbors wander by to chat or exchange finished goods. There are no temples demanding tribute, no palaces hoarding talent. Just shared space, shared work, and the quiet clatter of things being made well. Historians still debate whether this lack of hierarchy meant artisans were fully independent or part of a coordinated economic network. There are no records, no guild charters. Just distribution. Beads, bangles, pottery, found in homes, in marketplaces, even in graves. Everyone, it seems, valued beauty. Or at least recognized good design when they saw it. One final stop draws your attention, a stone carver tapping away at a block of steatite, slowly shaping it into another one of those mysterious seals. You watch the figure emerge, a stylized bull, its horns exaggerated, its stance proud. Beneath it, 3 or 4 symbols are etched with meticulous care. You lean closer. It almost looks like a sentence. Or a spell. Or just a label saying, "This belongs to Nikhil, do not steal." No one knows. The carver doesn't even look up. He just keeps working, lips pressed into a line, completely at peace in the world he's chiseling into existence. And you realize, standing here among the bead dust and clay shavings, that this is what civilization looks like when it isn't trying to conquer anything. No chariots. No war drums. Just tools, hands, and time. As the afternoon ripens and the air begins to shimmer faintly with heat, you wander away from the artisan quarter and down a quieter lane, following the distant thrum of soft voices and the low rumble of grinding stones. You're not entirely sure where you're going, but that's the beauty of the Indus Valley. You don't need a map. The streets, though ancient, were designed with a flow that feels almost modern. And right now, that flow is carrying you straight toward the kitchens. Or more precisely, the courtyards, those open-air spaces tucked inside nearly every home. Because in this civilization, cooking isn't a solo act hidden behind closed doors. It's communal. Rhythmic. A kind of ritual that begins long before a flame is lit. You pause beside a modest home with a low door and a fig tree shading the courtyard. Inside, a woman kneels beside a large stone cairn, one hand steadying the flat slab, the other moving a thick grinding stone in slow circles over a pile of millet. The motion is steady, almost hypnotic, and the smell of freshly crushed grain floats on the warm breeze. Nearby, another woman crushes garlic, turmeric, and dried coriander in a smaller mortar, the soft crack of the pestle syncing with the grinding rhythm. A child sits beside her, snacking on puffed rice and humming a tune that might be ancient or might just be her way of saying "I'm bored." A dog naps under the table, occasionally flicking its ears at a fly, while a chicken pecks nearby with deeply unjustified confidence. You sit quietly in the doorway, not intruding, just observing. One of the women nods and offers you a green pod, maybe okra, maybe a cousin of okra that decided to take a different career path. You bite it. It's tangy, fresh, a little slimy in the way okra always is, and somehow still refreshing. She smiles approvingly, then returns to her cooking. The fire pit is shallow, ringed with stones, and fueled by cow dung cakes, a surprisingly efficient and renewable source of heat. Above it, a blackened clay pot simmers quietly, sending up spirals of steam rich with lentil, cumin, and some kind of citrusy leaf you can't identify but would absolutely ask for seconds of. Historians still argue over the full variety of Indus Valley diets. Bones of cattle, sheep, goat, and fish have been found in excavations, suggesting some meat consumption, though likely reserved for festivals or special occasions. Day to day, most meals were plant-based: wheat, barley, lentils, chickpeas, sesame, mustard greens, dates, and melons. A lot of fiber. A lot of quiet chewing. You're offered a small clay bowl of stew, thick, earthy, a little smoky. You sip it carefully. It's deeply satisfying. Not fancy. Just honest. Like the city itself. You eat in silence, the clatter of cooking and quiet talk forming a warm background to your meal. Occasionally, someone passes a spice or hands off a bundle of greens. The child begins stacking pebbles beside you. 1, 2, 3, then topples them with a delighted squeal. You suspect she's going to be an engineer. You step out into the alley again. Belly full, lips tingling faintly from a rogue chili seed. Further down, you pass another home where a man sits cross-legged in the courtyard, weaving a mat from reeds. A small pile of clean vegetables lies beside him, waiting for someone's hands. In this city, the work of feeding people is shared. Gender roles likely existed, sure, no society is entirely free from them, but there's an unmistakable sense of cooperation here. Less who cooks, and more who's not helping yet. A long, low call echoes from a nearby rooftop. Not a shout, more like a vocalized hum. It's echoed by another voice down the street, then another. You pause. It's the afternoon alert. Time to check the communal ovens. You follow the drifting smoke and faint scent of char to a larger courtyard with a domed clay oven at its center. Several families gather around, carefully sliding flatbreads inside with long paddles. The oven radiates heat, and the air smells like toasted grain and wood ash. One man turns his bread and gestures at a spot beside him, offering you a seat. You take it, grinning. The bread, probably a kind of early roti, is crisp on the outside, soft within. You rip off a piece and watch as a young girl brushes the loaves with oil infused with garlic and mustard seed. Beside her, an elder adds small balls of mashed lentil paste onto the hot surface to fry. The sizzle is deeply satisfying. And then someone hands out sweetened date balls, rolled in sesame and wrapped in leaves. You take one, expecting a bland bite. Instead, it melts in your mouth, earthy, sticky, slightly gritty, and shockingly delicious. You want 5 more. You settle for 2. Historians still debate how food was distributed in the Indus Valley. Was there a centralized system? Communal granaries? Or did households manage their own supplies and trade with neighbors? No one's sure. But from what you've seen today, sharing seems to be the default mode. Recipes passed down without written words. Meals eaten in groups. Spice combinations adjusted with a knowing glance. As the sun begins its long descent and the air cools, the courtyard quiets. Plates are rinsed with well water, leftover scraps are dropped into compost urns, and bowls are stacked beside the oven for tomorrow. People linger, chatting softly, brushing flour off their clothes, laughing at a toddler trying to steal a second date ball. You head back into the street, full in every sense of the word. Your mouth still tingles with spice. Your hands smell like lentils and ash. And your heart, somehow, feels fed by more than just the food. No feasts. No goblets. Just a simple meal, a shared fire, and the hum of a civilization that knew how to nourish itself. You walk off your meal slowly, barefoot on warm bricks, pausing to stretch your arms beneath the drooping leaves of a tamarind tree. The shadows are growing longer now, and the city begins to soften. The clang of grinding stones fades. The laughter from shared courtyards becomes a murmur. The air smells faintly of smoke, jasmine, and wet clay, as if the whole place is preparing to exhale. You drift toward the schoolhouse, not because you're expected, but because you're curious. Children have been darting in and out of that building all day, clutching clay tablets and giggling like they know things you don't. Which, honestly, they probably do. The school is modest, low walls, a shaded courtyard, and a floor worn smooth by little feet. There are no chairs. No chalkboards. No stern philosophers in togas demanding silence. Just a circle of children seated on woven mats, with a patient woman in the center. her voice low and steady. You linger at the edge of the doorway, listening. She draws something in the dust with a stick. A shape. A series of lines. The children echo it softly, then begin copying it into the soft clay of their tablets. You recognize the characters, they match the mysterious symbols carved on the merchant seals and household walls. The script of the Indus. Historians still argue whether this was a true writing system, or just proto-writing, symbols meant to communicate trade goods, quantities, or spiritual offerings. The truth is, we haven't cracked it. Not for lack of trying. Linguists, cryptographers, even AI models have tried to decode it. But the inscriptions are short. There's no Rosetta Stone, just a sea of symbols and the knowledge that someone, somewhere, understood exactly what they meant. One boy scribbles his symbols upside down. Another is carving a very convincing fish. The teacher smiles and taps her stick, gently nudging them back on track. She's patient. Probably too patient. You wonder if anyone's carved "I hate homework" in Indus script yet. A nearby tablet is filled edge to edge with marks. Columns and rows. Some kind of record keeping. You crouch closer and recognize what might be a grain tally, or perhaps a trade receipt. The boy who made it is already moving on to the next, tongue stuck slightly out the side of his mouth as he focuses. You'd give anything to ask him what it means. But he's in the zone. You let him be. There's no one-size-fits-all education here, no empire-wide curriculum or papyrus mandates. But there is learning. And clearly, it's valuable. Children here are taught not just how to speak and trade, but how to etch memory into clay. How to make thoughts last longer than breath. You slip outside and head toward a quieter lane where a few teenagers are gathered in a shady alcove, playing a board game with black and white stones. They don't look up as you pass, they're deep into some kind of strategy dispute. One slaps a piece down triumphantly. Another groans and mutters what can only be a deeply ancient version of "not fair." You spot an older man teaching a small group of apprentices how to knot rope into nets. You linger again. There's something meditative about the way his fingers move. Twist, loop, pull. A system. He doesn't explain. He simply does, over and over, letting the learners match him beat for beat. When one messes up, he gently undoes the knot, hands it back, and continues. Again, and again. Learning here isn't institutionalized. It's woven into the rhythm of daily life. You don't go to school so much as you become part of a flow, watching, copying, trying, failing, trying again. The skills passed down aren't abstract. They're for building, growing, healing, cooking, shaping, writing, measuring. Life stuff. The kind of knowledge that doesn't fit neatly on parchment but lives in fingertips and muscle memory. You reach a rooftop where two girls are playing a rhythm game with clapping hands and chant singing. You sit quietly nearby, watching the sun begin to dip toward the horizon. One of them notices you, giggles, and invites you with a hand wave. You clap along awkwardly, missing the beat more often than not. They laugh. You laugh. It's fine. You're the tourist here. Somewhere below, a drum begins to sound, a slow, low beat, calling families in from the fields or riverbanks. Not an alarm. Not a ritual. Just evening music. A reminder that the day is ending and the city is folding in on itself like a cat curling up to sleep. You pass one final scene before heading down again. A woman seated by a wall, teaching a child how to wrap a reed around a bundle of herbs. Not to eat. To hang above the door. A charm. Maybe against insects. Maybe against bad dreams. Maybe just because her mother did the same thing. Historians still debate the role of formal religion in the Indus Valley. There are no known temples, no large statues of gods demanding worship. But signs of spirituality are everywhere, in symbols, in amulets, in tiny household rituals passed from hand to hand. You suspect the divine, here, is not thunderous or jealous. It's quiet. Woven into daily kindness. Like the way someone saves you the softest piece of bread without saying anything. As the last orange light slides off the rooftops and the first oil lamps flicker to life in nearby homes, you feel the hush settle. No bell rings. No announcements. Just the natural winding down of people who understand the day is done. And though no one said a word to you directly, you've learned more than you expected. About writing, and silence. About memory. And patience. About how learning doesn't always need schools, just space, rhythm, and someone to watch your hands while you learn to tie a knot. The lamps are lit now. You can see them blooming one by one in the soft dusk, tiny oil flames flickering behind reed shades, inside alcoves, or just left open to the breeze. No grand lantern festival. No torches held high. Just the quiet, practical glow of homecoming. Light enough to see by. Gentle enough not to wake the stars. You stroll slowly through the cooling city. The bricks that baked beneath the afternoon sun now release their warmth in soft pulses beneath your feet. Your shadow stretches ahead of you, long and loose, dancing across the walls as you pass. You've seen a full day in the Indus Valley now, and somehow, not once has it shouted at you. Not once has it needed to. You pass a row of homes with open courtyards. Families gather around low fires. Meals are finished. Bowls are washed. Children lean against older siblings, drifting into half-sleep as someone tells a story, slow, sing-song, probably involving a very heroic water buffalo. A dog yawns. A grandmother smiles, then shakes her head at the story's ending. You don't know the words, but you know the rhythm. Up ahead, you spot a man tending to a garden. Not a lush one, this is practical stuff. Narrow beds of onions, lentils, and maybe a few herbs clinging to the edge of a raised platform. He kneels to water the soil with a carefully dipped clay cup. Each motion is unhurried. His sleeves are rolled up. His feet are dusty. And his eyes look like they've watched the seasons change 1,000 times. Historians still debate how much individual households grew their own food. Some homes show evidence of private wells and garden plots. Others seem to have shared access to larger, community-managed lands beyond the city walls. What's certain is that the cities didn't sprawl out endlessly, they respected the land. They left space for the earth to breathe. You glance beyond the rooftops, where the horizon darkens into the velvet blue of evening. Somewhere out there lies the river. The mighty Indus. It hums quietly through the land like a sleeping dragon. During monsoon season, it overflows its banks and floods the plains. And yet, the city was built to survive it, built with foresight, with elevated platforms and drainage systems that could carry away the rising tide. Floods weren't feared. They were expected. Managed. Like everything else here, you reach a well-lit gathering space, more of a widened intersection than a square. A few neighbors sit together on low stools. One strums a stringed instrument, its tune more vibration than melody. Another taps along on a flat drum made from turtle shell and leather. They aren't performing. They're just playing. One of them sings a few soft notes, then stops, laughing at his own attempt. It's the kind of music that doesn't need an audience. You sit near them, close enough to feel the rhythm. A child toddles over, fascinated by your face. You smile. She does not smile back. Her priorities lie entirely with the turtle drum. Fair. A breeze passes. Someone sighs in relief. The music continues, joined by the chirp of crickets and the soft clatter of something being packed away behind you. And for a moment, you wonder, why didn't they build temples? Why no ziggurats, no towering monuments to themselves? No eternal flame shrines guarded by leopard-skin priests. Historians still argue this too, of course. Some believe religion was personal, household-based, practiced quietly through tokens, charms, and private rituals. Others think large spiritual spaces existed and simply haven't been unearthed. But maybe, just maybe, the people here thought that sacredness didn't need a building. That daily life, done thoughtfully, was holy enough. You think of the bead maker, the bread baker, the boy etching symbols into wet clay. You think of the water that comes when you need it, the streets that don't flood, the compost that returns food to soil. Maybe, for them, civilization wasn't something to boast about. It was something to practice. As the song winds down, you notice a man lighting a small flame in front of a carved stone, an elephant, maybe, horrible. The flame flickers for a moment, then steadies. He bows his head. No crowd gathers. No incense clouds the sky. Just him, the stone, and the night. You rise and continue walking. A rooftop stair invites you upward, and you climb slowly until you reach a flat, open platform surrounded by short walls. From here, the city glows like a memory. Warm, soft, alive. Below, a woman laughs. A baby squeals in delight. Somewhere, A goat makes a sound so ridiculous you wonder how they ever earned a place in the history books. Still, there it is, chewing its cud and watching the stars like it owns the world. You lie down on your back, hands behind your head, gazing up into the deepening sky. Stars emerge slowly. First one. Then three. Then an entire spatter of light. No moon tonight. Just you, the city, and a sky that feels closer than usual. And you think, this place didn't build empires. It didn't launch conquests. It left behind no golden thrones or stone colossuses. What it built was a rhythm, a quiet, steady hum of people living together, building together, surviving monsoons, cooking lentils, measuring beads, bathing, teaching, laughing, burying their dead, raising their children, and then doing it all again the next day. And somehow, 4,000 years later, you can still feel that hum. The rooftop cradles you like an old friend now. Brick warm beneath your back, night air cool across your cheeks. Somewhere nearby, someone's wind chime sways lazily in the breeze, a tinkling counterpoint to the deep chirr of cicadas in the trees. You breathe in the calm of a civilization that never tried to scream its name into the void. And yet, here you are, thousands of years later, still listening. But eventually, even rooftops must be left behind. You rise slowly, joints a little stiff, and descend the narrow stairs one careful step at a time. The street is quieter now, but not empty. You pass a woman lighting a final lamp outside her door, her thumb smudged with oil. She nods to you, not out of recognition, but that familiar Indus kind of nod that says, "I see you." Walk softly. You keep walking, your feet skimming over the smoothest parts of the road, past doors already drawn shut for the night. The scent of baked brick and fresh ash lingers. Somewhere, a cat yowls from a rooftop. Another answers. You suspect a romance is unfolding above your head. And then you come to the edge of the neighborhood, a low boundary wall half swallowed by vines. Beyond it lies the water system, the real heart of this city. Not statues, not kings, but drains. You crouch beside one now, barely wider than your forearm, running in a perfect line along the base of the homes. It's dry this time of year, but you can still smell the faint memory of river water, soap, and yesterday's bath. The city's engineers laid these drains with uncanny precision, brick by brick, slope by slope, so water would run cleanly through and out. Some even had inspection holes. Yes, ancient manholes. And they worked. For centuries. Historians still marvel at it. The Indus sanitation system was unmatched in its time, and honestly, it's still putting some modern cities to shame. Each home with a private bathroom drained into this larger network, leading out to communal soak pits or distant fields. And the water itself, well, that's where the magic really is. You turn and follow a gentle incline until you reach the well. There are many, scattered across the city, private ones in courtyards, public ones like this one, encircled by a low wall where neighbors gather their jars. By now, it's mostly deserted. Just the soft creak of the rope and the splash of the bucket as someone draws water for the night. You greet the old man at the well with a quiet nod. He's done for the day but lingers, as elders often do, just to see who's still wandering around past sunset. He hums softly to himself, some tune that probably predates language, and dips a ladle into the jar beside him. He offers it to you. You sip. It's cool, metallic, faintly earthy. Ancient aquifer with a touch of mineral aftertaste. You smile. He smiles. You hand back the ladle, and he packs up without a word. Further along, you glimpse the bathing area, another small marvel. No marble statues, no columns. Just function, a raised platform with steps, a sloped floor, and a nearby drain. Clay pitchers sit neatly beside it. Someone has left a bar of soap, brown, crumbly, probably made from ash and oil. You imagine the family who bathes here at dusk, washing off the day's dust, combing out their hair, drying their feet before dinner. There's something sacred about that small, silent ritual. A city that values cleanliness not as luxury, but as dignity. You remember hearing once that cleanliness is next to godliness. And maybe here, where temples are few and toilets are everywhere, they took that literally. You keep walking. Past walls with low graffiti marks, little animals scratched in with a nail, a sun symbol here, a paw print there. No one's painting murals. But still, someone wanted to be remembered. You press your hand near one. Just to see. Yours is bigger. Time moves forward. Then you pass the burial site. It's not grand. Just a shaded plot near the edge of the city, marked by a low fence of stone. Some are cremation sites. Others, full burials. Bodies carefully laid out, often with goods, bowls, beads, a toy. Sometimes a pet. Always a sense of peace. Historians still debate the religious beliefs of these people. Were they animists? Proto-Hindus? Something entirely lost to time? Their burial practices offer few answers, only that they treated their dead with care. No giant pyramids. No gold masks. Just a soft goodbye. You sit beside one grave for a while, staring up at the stars. And you think, this city knew it couldn't last forever. Brick crumbles. Rivers change course. People forget, but they've built it anyway. Carefully. Lovingly. As if they believed in something better, not after death, but right here. In life. In working drains. In peaceful nights. In the quiet hum of 1,000 people doing the right thing every day and not making a fuss about it. A breeze brushes over your shoulders, cool and damp. From the river, probably. Maybe tomorrow you'll walk there. Maybe tomorrow you'll see the boats, or the floodplains, or the fish traps. But tonight, you're just here. A quiet corner of a forgotten civilization that, somehow, knew exactly how to live. The moon finally rises. Not a bold, full orb, but a slender crescent, barely enough to cast a glow on the rooftops and courtyards of the city below. It's a shy kind of light, the kind that lets shadows dance without being scolded. You follow it, meandering through a quieter quarter now, homes spaced further apart, streets a little wider, the hush a little deeper. You've reached the edges of town. Here, the houses seem grander, but only slightly, more like wide, well-planned compounds than opulent estates. These aren't palaces. No royal guards. No gilded doors. Just a few extra rooms, higher walls, private wells. You figure this is where the wealthier citizens live, maybe merchants, or respected artisans, or community leaders. Important people, sure, but nothing like the power-hungry elites of other ancient cities. No sign of kings or queens. Not even a single oversized throne. Historians still argue about this, how a civilization with such advanced urban planning and long-distance trade could have no clear signs of central rulers. No giant statues. No tombs bigger than the neighborhood. No records of military conquest. It's as if they collectively decided, yeah, we're good without a dictator, thanks. You walk along the perimeter wall of one of the larger homes. Its brickwork is flawless, tight joints, precise corners, a gentle curve at the base to deflect rain. A man inside is brushing down the legs of an ox tethered to a post. He hums softly as he works, then pats the animal gently. The ox lowers its head in something like appreciation. You smile. Even the livestock here seem unbothered. There's movement on a rooftop nearby. A woman spreads out a thin sleeping mat and adjusts a low pillow. She lifts a cloth over her child, already dozing beside her, then lies back with a sigh that's centuries old. Above her, the stars brighten. Below, the city continues its low, peaceful murmur. You turn your gaze outward, beyond the edge of the city walls, toward the dark plain beyond. Somewhere in the near distance, small fires burn, field huts, likely. Farmers watching their overnight irrigation or guarding young crops from nighttime grazers. The Indus River system brought not just life, but timing. Crops grew in concert with the rise and fall of the river's mood. No tractors, no sprinkler systems. Just patient humans and their unspoken agreement with the land. You follow a side path past a cluster of storage buildings, some kind of warehouses or silos. The air smells faintly of dry grain and baked earth. You press your ear to one of the walls and hear nothing. But you imagine the hush of sacks settling, the rustle of straw, the careful footsteps of someone taking inventory by oil lamp. Again, no sign of guards. No barbed wire. These aren't vaults, they're shared resources. Whether run by family, neighborhood, or some silent bureaucracy, you're struck by how much here depends on trust. The system is complex. But the intention? Simple: feed people. Store well. Waste little. Repeat. You pass another well, and this time, a group of women is gathered around it. their laughter carrying on the wind. They aren't fetching water now. They're relaxing. You recognize one from the cook fires earlier. She waves you over with a grin, then offers you a cup of something warm and slightly sweet. Possibly date tea. Possibly sugarcane broth. Possibly leaf soup. You sip. It's all three. They talk around you, not to you. But you're not left out. You just float along. One woman braids another's hair. Another removes a sandal and massages her sore foot, still laughing through the pain. A child lies across two laps like a bridge, snoring gently. You take another sip. It tastes a bit like nostalgia. Then someone starts humming. Just a low note, soft and steady. Another woman joins in. Then a third. It isn't a song, exactly. Just a kind of vibration, slow and gentle, like bees dreaming. You close your eyes and let it wash over you. A lullaby not meant to lull, but to ground. A melody for soil, not sky. Historians still wonder what music sounded like in the Indus Valley. There are no musical scores, no lyrics. But there are instruments, flutes made of bone, drums of clay and skin, carved whistles and string toys. Enough to know they made sound. Enough to know they felt rhythm. Enough to guess that lullabies weren't just for children. The humming fades. You open your eyes, and the women are packing up. One kisses her fingers and touches a nearby stone. A charm. A prayer. Or maybe just a habit. You wave goodbye, and she waves back. You find yourself walking again. Along a low ridge near the outermost boundary of the city. From here, the full sweep of the town lies before you. It's not sprawling. It's not towering. But it is alive. Every home, every courtyard, every drain and alley and bath and kiln, each one quietly serving a need. You think of other ancient cities. How they boasted. Built upward and outward with ambition sharpened into cruelty. You remember the bones beneath golden tombs, the cries buried beneath triumph. Here, there are no empires. Just neighborhoods. Just people. Just peace. You sit down on the ridge, pull your knees to your chest, and rest your chin on them. It's not your city. Not your time. But somehow, it feels familiar. Like you've stumbled into an older version of something humanity keeps trying to remember. You close your eyes, just for a moment, and let the night carry you. A soft sound wakes you, not jarring, not urgent, just the slow creak of something shifting in the early hours. You blink your eyes open. It's still dark, but a gentle gray is beginning to nibble at the horizon. Morning is tiptoeing in, careful not to wake the city all at once. You sit up, spine cracking gently, and notice the subtle change around you. The air smells different, cooler, damp with dew, with a faint trace of ashen grain. The sky is turning that particular shade of soft blue that always makes you feel like something kind is about to happen. And here in the Indus Valley, kindness seems to be built right into the bricks. You stretch your arms overhead and begin walking again. Quietly, as if not to disturb the dreams still lingering behind clay walls. Ahead of you, a figure bends near a row of flowering plants, watering them not with urgency, but with the same care you'd use to wash a baby's hair. The blooms are modest, yellow blossoms, curling vines, a hint of jasmine. Nothing extravagant. Just alive. You ask yourself, were these gardens for beauty? For medicine? Or maybe both. Historians still argue about the purpose of small plantings in Indus homes. Were they functional? Ritualistic? Were certain flowers offerings? Or simply admired for their color? Like much in this city, the answer isn't loud. But it's definitely there. You follow a side street where roosters now stir, their proud morning calls echoing through alleyways in a kind of lazy competition. Somewhere, a goat sneezes. A child laughs from behind a door. You pass a public washing platform, its stones still damp from an earlier visitor. Likely a woman who rose before the sun to scrub linens in peace. You can almost see her there now, sleeves rolled up, hair tied back, humming softly to herself while the city still dreamed. You take a turn and find yourself once again in a bustling hub, but this time, it's the start of bustle. Merchants open shutters. Kilns are being rekindled. Clay pots thump softly against wood as carts are loaded. A baker flips the first flatbread of the day with the kind of finesse that comes only after 1,000 mornings just like this one. You greet the beadmaker's alley again, but now it smells of wet stone and fresh oil. A boy is already at work, polishing a row of etched carnelian beads with a cloth. He squints at the rising light to check their symmetry, then nods at his own work like, "Yeah. That's a good one." You want to applaud. But instead, you just smile and keep moving. You pass the school again. No one's there yet, but someone has drawn fresh symbols in the dust. Practice marks, maybe. Or a message. Or perhaps just the ancient equivalent of Kilroy was here. The symbols are still mysterious, fish shapes, plant stalks, a horned figure, but now you see them less as code and more as memory. Etched into time. Waiting. Down another lane. The communal oven is already glowing. A woman slides in her first loaf, while another blows gently on a kindling flame. Children rub sleep from their eyes, still in last night's tunics, clutching bits of sweet bread wrapped in palm leaves. A boy drops his. His sister takes half of hers and gives it to him. No drama. Just rhythm. You notice a man brushing down the walkway in front of his home with a palm broom. Not because someone told him to. Just because it needs doing. Nearby, someone else refills the hand-washing pot beside the neighborhood well. The water spills in a graceful arc, catching the early light. Everything here flows. Not in a grand, flashy way. There's no orchestra to conduct it. But the symphony is real. You see it in the way the baker knows exactly how long to leave a loaf. In how the potter's hand remembers the feel of the perfect curve. In how the fish seller, just now arriving with a reed basket slung over his shoulder, nods to the weaver like it's part of some unspoken morning prayer. Historians still debate how decisions were made in Indus society. Without kings, without texts, how did they coordinate so smoothly? Was there a council? Elders? Elected roles? Or was it simply a culture so steeped in cooperation that the system ran itself? You suspect it's a bit of all of that. And something more. A kind of civic trust that most modern cities would mortgage their skylines for. You reach a platform overlooking a narrow canal and sit for a moment. The water trickles gently beneath you, guided by those ancient drains you admired last night. A bird dips down for a sip. The bricks beneath your legs are cool but drying quickly in the morning light. You tilt your head back and listen. There it is again. That hum. Not mechanical. Not electric. But human. 1,000 hands working. 1,000 feet walking. 1,000 small, unremarkable kindnesses echoing through a city that was built, not to dominate, but to endure. Not to impress, but to work. A city that still whispers, "You don't need glory. You just need to get up and do the next right thing." You rise, dust your palms off, and turn back toward the heart of town. The sun is almost fully risen now. Shadows shrink. The people stretch. The city breathes. You could leave. You could climb out of this dream and wake up back in your own messy, overscheduled century. But maybe not quite yet. Maybe you'll stay for breakfast. The breakfast stalls have come alive. Not the kind with signs and menus and upcharges for oat milk, but the quiet, ancient kind, wooden stands pushed into corners, cloth canopies fluttering in the breeze, steam rising in lazy ribbons from iron griddles and stone pots. You follow the scent, roasted grain, warm spices, something sour-sweet in the air that you can't quite name but know you want. You settle near a squat vendor with a simple setup, just a flat griddle, a stack of clay bowls, and a fire that crackles like it's been burning since civilization began. She's frying something that smells like lentils and garlic, spooning small discs of batter onto the hot surface with practiced flicks of the wrist. They sizzle, puff slightly, and brown at the edges in a way that promises crisp perfection. You gesture politely. She nods and slides a pear onto a leaf plate, adding a side of chutney made from something green, sour, and deeply invigorating. You take a bite. Crunch, warmth, spice, comfort. It's not fancy. It's just right. Beside you, a group of laborers eat quietly, dipping their flatbreads into bowls of curried mung beans, wiping sweat from their brows even though the sun is barely up. One of them passes you a small clay cup filled with a milky drink, sweet, earthy, and faintly nutty. Possibly almond, possibly mystery bean. You raise the cup in thanks. He nods, already back to chewing. You look around, and the entire block is humming, people on mats, benches, stoops. Eating. Talking. Stretching out limbs sore from yesterday. Preparing for another day of weaving, measuring, kiln firing, bead polishing, cattle tending, or record keeping. Everyone has a role. And more remarkably, everyone seems to know it. Historians still puzzle over the apparent lack of warfare in the Indus Valley. No battle murals. No mass graves of fallen soldiers. No fortresses looming with threats. Maybe they fought sometimes. Humans do. But here, you get the sense that survival was less about conquest and more about coordination. If someone tried to take your lentil patties, you'd probably just make extra. You walk a little further and notice a man carefully arranging trays of goods along a brick ledge, rows of fish, spices in pouches, grains tied with reeds, hand-carved bone combs, and small bundles of dyed thread. A merchant, clearly. But again, no shouting. No haggling. Just gestures, nods, and the occasional chuckle of shared amusement when a price is silently agreed upon with a shrug. A woman selects 2 fish, places a jar of sesame paste beside them, and waits. He weighs the trade in his head, nods, and accepts. She walks off, balancing the fish on a folded cloth like she's done it 1,000 times. She has. Everyone has. Markets in the Indus cities weren't about chaos. They were about relationships, repeated exchanges, quiet systems, trust built not on contracts, but on presence. You show up. You trade fairly. You come back tomorrow. The city remembers. As you wander through this early morning market lane, you see evidence of trade from far beyond. Lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, copper from Oman, shells from the Arabian coast, cotton thread likely spun only miles away. It's not just a town, it's a hub. A node in an ancient network that stretched farther than most modern maps dare guess. One man is carving a tablet with symbols, inventory, perhaps. Another records a shipment using tiny pebbles arranged in a shell tray. These aren't scribes in dusty robes. They're active, dynamic accountants of a living, breathing system. You pause beside a stall where incense burns faintly. The woman behind it wears rings of carved wood and a necklace of baked terracotta beads. She offers you a sliver of something, dark, crumbly, with a faintly spicy aroma. You nibble it. Licorice? Resin? Medicinal candy for sore throats? Possibly all 3. She says something to you in a language no one's spoken for 4,000 years. But her smile is fluent. And here comes the most surprising thing of all, a man with a small monkey perched on his shoulder, carrying a reed basket of herbs and wrapped bundles. The monkey wears a tiny cloth tunic. He picks a flea from the man's hair and eats it. This is, apparently, part of the show. The man announces his goods not with a shout, but with a small flute tune. Not to draw a crowd, just to let you know he's arrived. He offers you a bundle. You open it to find dried flowers, a folded leaf, and what looks like a sliver of bark. You ask what it is. He answers with a shrug and a grin. You hand him a bead. He accepts. You walk on. This isn't a market for tourists. It's a market for neighbors. For people who know each other's pace, preferences, and how many onions they bought last week. It's as much about familiarity as it is about supply and demand. There are no guards. No price lists. No loudspeakers urging you to buy now, save big. Just rhythm. And you realize something else. Every part of this city, every stall, every cart, every plate of lentils, is designed for people to stay just long enough. There's no rush. But there's also no lingering. You trade, you eat, you nod, you move along. The system doesn't cling. It flows. You pass back through the artisan alley, now bustling again with early activity. The beadmaker is bent over his wheel, smoothing stone into shape. The weaver adjusts his loom. A potter flips a bowl from a shelf, inspects the base, and nods with the satisfaction of someone whose hands still surprise him. You return to the center of the city, cup still warm in your hands, and sit by the bathing platform. A child is laughing in the water. A dog barks once, then falls asleep mid-guard. A man leads a donkey through the alley, whispering to it like it's an old friend. And you, well, you're just here, breathing in one of history's rarest things. A society that worked, not because it was forced to, but because it wanted to. Midday arrives almost without warning. The city doesn't shout it. There's no bell, no prayer call, no scheduled announcement of hey, it's lunchtime. Instead, it's a gentle, collective turning inward. The market slows. The shadows shift. Even the animals seem to know it's time to pause. You feel it too. That invitation to rest, to slow down, to just exist. You follow the scent of cooked grains and lentils drifting from an open-air courtyard. Inside, several families sit cross-legged around woven mats, dipping bread into a shared bowl of spicy stew. No forks. No ceremony. Just hands and laughter. A woman tears a piece of her bread and hands it to a child not her own. No one comments. It's just what people do here. Someone waves you over. You sit. They pass you a dish. You eat. It's warm, tangy, hearty, the kind of food made to be eaten with fingers and friends. A man mops his forehead with the edge of his tunic and lets out a groan of satisfaction so contagious you echo it without thinking. A boy nearby cackles and mimics your groan. The table laughs. So do you. This is hospitality in the Indus Valley. Not performative. Not ceremonial. Just generous, quiet, and constant. No one's impressed by your presence. But no one resents it, either. After the meal, you're handed a leaf folded like an envelope. Inside, fennel seeds, crushed herbs, a sweet paste that stings your tongue in a good way. A post-lunch breath freshener. Possibly a mild digestive. Possibly just an excuse to eat something pleasant. You pop the whole thing in your mouth and thank the person who gave it to you. They smile like they've been waiting all day to see someone's face do exactly what yours is doing. You lean back against the warm clay of the courtyard wall and watch the midday lull unfold. A woman rinses dishes at the corner basin, her wrists silver with bangles. A man pulls a cloth over his eyes and settles down for a nap in the shade. Children draw shapes in the dust, comparing how wiggly their elephants can be. A bird hops along the edge of a water pot, dips its beak once, and then vanishes into the sun. And you, well, you just sit there. Doing nothing. Which, in the Indus Valley, feels like exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Historians still debate the work schedules of Indus society. Without clear records, we don't know whether people worked strict hours, rotated shifts, or simply followed natural rhythms. But based on the city's design, the generous courtyards, the shaded alleys, and the lack of obvious boss energy, one might guess they worked when needed and rested when tired. Revolutionary, right? After a while, someone offers you a cool cloth for your forehead. You take it. They offer no explanation. You give a grateful nod and place it over your face. Instantly, the world softens. The sun, the breeze, the distant sounds of people going about their lives, all of it blurs into a pleasant murmur. You doze off for a moment. Maybe longer. When you wake, it's later. The courtyard is quieter. The dishes are gone. A few neighbors have moved into deeper shade or back into their homes. You stretch and rise, feeling that strange post-nap weightlessness. A woman walking past offers you a figure. You accept it like it's treasure. It tastes like syrup and sunshine. You wander toward a quieter part of town, near the river-facing edge. Here, a group of elders sits in a semicircle under a tree. They speak slowly, with long pauses, like they've all agreed not to interrupt each other ever again. You sit at a distance and just listen. One tells a story about a bird who tricked a crocodile by pretending to be a stone. Another nods and adds a detail: the bird had 3 eyes. The third elder laughs and says, "That was your uncle, not a bird." They all laugh. You don't get the joke. But it's the kind that makes you wish you did. This is a city that respects age. Not with monuments. Not with flattery. But with time. Time to speak. Time to be heard. Time to rest in the shade of a tree you didn't plant, knowing someone will listen even if you repeat the story for the 3rd time that week. You stroll on, past a craftsman sketching something into wet clay with a reed. Past a woman oiling a wooden comb. Past a boy chasing a paper-thin wheel along the road, laughing like the gods just invented fun. There's no rush to afternoon here. It just happens. You find yourself beside a kiln, its fire low now, its glow like a heartbeat. The potter beside it inspects a row of still warm cups, tapping them gently with a stick. Each tap rings differently. He smiles at one cup, winces at another, and tosses it casually into a basket marked "Try again." You want to ask if it's truly broken or just imperfect. But he's already moved on. That's the thing about this place. Nothing is hoarded. Not even failure. You make. You learn. You make again. No fuss. No exhibition. Just rhythm. And even now, With the sun starting to tip westward and the city stirring gently from its rest, you feel it. That unspoken truth that pulses beneath every brick, every meal, every quiet moment of this world. You don't have to change the world. You just have to take care of your corner of it. The sun leans low now. It spills amber light over the rooftops, stretches shadows down alleys, and paints everything, walls, pots, even people's faces, with that fleeting softness only late afternoon can provide. You walk slowly through the heart of the city one last time, your feet knowing the way now, your body slipping into sync with the pace of this ancient, unhurried place. You pass the public well, where the water glows like gold at the bottom of the jar. Children splash the last of it over each other's arms, shrieking and giggling, until an older boy pretends to be an Indus Valley crocodile. They scatter. He roars triumphantly, then trips over his own sandal and becomes the punchline instead. The world keeps spinning. Further along, you return to the same baker you saw this morning. His flatbreads now sit in neat stacks, cooling slowly, steam rising like quiet thanks. He offers you one. No words. Just a slight tilt of the head and a smile that says, "We made it through another day." You take it. It's still warm. You carry it with you as you walk past homes shutting up for the night. A woman sweeps her threshold. A man drapes a cloth over a window. A boy collects empty bowls, pausing to lick a smear of lentils before anyone sees. You see. You wink. He grins and vanishes inside. There are no locks. No barking orders. Just people easing from activity into stillness. Just like the city itself. You find yourself back where you began, near the bathing platform. Now dark and quiet, the last puddles drying under the whisper of wind. The drains beneath still gurgle faintly. The bricks beneath your hands are cool and worn smooth by centuries of gentle use. It feels like sitting inside a memory. The city exhales. This was never a place built for spectacle. It was built for living. Not for glory. For continuity. And that's exactly what it achieved, for over 700 years, long before pyramids reached their full height or Rome had its first stone. It hummed, thrived, and quietly carried on. Historians still debate why it ended. Did the river shift? Did trade collapse? Did droughts starve the land or earthquakes break the bones beneath the bricks? Or did it just fade, the way even the best rhythms sometimes do, not in chaos, but in silence? We may never know. But sitting here now, as dusk bleeds softly across the sky and the last voices slip into quiet, you feel what maybe those ancient people felt too, not despair, not triumph. Just peace. They didn't need a king to remember them. They didn't leave behind epic poems or towering spires or military boasts. What they left behind is more radical than all of that. They left proof that people could live together. In close quarters. With shared resources. Without rulers. And without war. They built not to conquer, but to coexist. And somehow, 4,000 years later, you can still hear it in the bricks, feel it in the drains, taste it in the lentils. The Indus Valley wasn't loud. But it lasted. Now, the city rests. The flames are out. The bread is cooled. The beads are tucked away in cloth. Nothing rushes now. Even the river slows its song, curling gently past the city's edge like a lullaby. You sit one last time beneath the sky, your hands resting on warm brick, your breath falling into rhythm with the breeze. The stars blink softly into view, one by one, like old friends returning from a long walk. No one calls them. They just arrive. Somewhere, a dog turns once, twice, then curls up in a tight circle near a courtyard fire. A baby sighs in her sleep. A mother smooths her hair without waking her. You listen. It's all quiet now. Not empty. Full. Full of all the small, deliberate acts that made this place what it was, a city not of gold or conquest, but of patience. Of dignity. Of good neighbors, clever hands, clean water, and bread warm from the stone. And maybe, if the world remembered more of this, not the emperors, not the battles, but the people, we'd all sleep just a little more soundly. So close your eyes now. You've walked their streets. You've tasted their food. You've bathed in their calm. And you've heard the heartbeat of the world that asked only for balance. You're safe now. Let the bricks hold your dreams. Let the wind carry them gently. And let the stars keep watch until morning comes again.
dạt tới đây luôn á. Lấy máy là quay gửi cho anh Thịnh.
Quay nó không có rõ đâu, không quay không có rõ. Máy xịn kìa, chứ máy này quay đâu.
Thì chớp chớp nhán nhán được rồi. dàn tới đây luôn á. Lấy máy là quay gửi cho anh Thịnh.
Quay nó có rõ đâu, không quay lại. Không có rõ. Nói xịn kìa, chứ nói vậy rồi đâu.
Thì chớp chớp nhán nhán được rồi. Dàn tới đây luôn á. Lấy máy là quay gửi cho anh Thịnh. chớp nhán nhán được